Okay, student, welcome back to the final part of Ecodynamic Berhad. So, in this section, we are going to prepare the next component of the financial statement, that is the statement of financial position and notes to the financial position. Notes to the financial statement on property, plant and equipment. First of all, let us look to the statement of financial position. Okay, this statement shows a company financial condition as of a certain date. So this statement will represent the reporting on how much the assets of the companies own and how much the liabilities it owes to others, and also the amount of its equity. Okay. As usual, let us gather the information needed. So here, we are going to identify the items that need to be reported in the statement of financial position by identifying the elements of assets, equities, and liabilities. Therefore, based on this question, I have identified all the items to be reported in the statement of financial position by blue font. Okay, now let us prepare the statement. Firstly, we make the heading. As usual, the first line is the name of the company, Ecodynamic Berhad, followed by the name of the statement, that is statement of financial position. Okay, please take note that we are not using the phrase for the year ended in SOFP, since we are not reporting the information for a period of time, but rather the information is as of a certain date. Therefore, we shall use the phrase as at. Okay, please take note on that. Okay, the next step is we are going to report all the company's asset first. So from this trial balance, we are going to take all the assets first and report them in SOFP. Okay, so please make sure that the current assets are reported separately from the non-current asset. And a single line is drawn every time you make the mathematical operation. For example, after you have finished group all the non-current asset, you will add up these two and you need to draw the single line to show the mathematical operation. And finally, we will compute for the total assets here. So, the total asset represented by the amount of non-current asset plus with the amount of current asset. Okay, and the amount of total asset is double rule here. Okay, now please take note, as I mentioned earlier, for the non-current asset, we have three different assets. One is intangible asset, followed by tangible asset and investment. As for the tangible assets, as per required by the standard, we have to summarize it under the item of property, plant and equipment. Therefore, all the tangible assets such as freehold land, building, plant and machinery and motor vehicles need to be summarized to find its carrying value and presented the summary amount on the face of the statement of financial position as single item under property, plant and equipment. So how to get the summary of this carrying value? As mentioned by the question, besides then the three components of the financial statement, you are also need to prepare the notes to the financial statement on property, plant and equipment. Thus, it is easier for us to prepare for the item of PPE on the face of the statement of financial position. Okay, therefore, to present this item, simultaneously, student, you can prepare the notes to the property, plant and equipment. Okay, as you prepare the statement of financial position. So here is the table that represent the notes on property, property, plant and equipment. Firstly, you draw the table and then you list down column by column on the tangible asset, starting from the land, followed by building and the rest of the tangible asset. So, the first step is to bring down the opening balance of those assets. So, this opening balance can be derived from the question in the trial balance. So, this amount is to be picked up as the opening balance and reported it in the notes to the PPE. And then you look for any increase or decrease of the asset during the year. Is there any acquisition or disposal of the year during the year? Since the additional information did not mention anything about the acquisition and the disposal, therefore there is no changes in the total assets during the year. Alright, next is to record the accumulated depreciation for the year. So how to get the accumulated depreciation for the year is by add up the opening balance of the accumulated depreciation with the current year depreciation. Okay, similar as the opening balance of the accumulated depreciation is derived from the question. Accumulated depreciation is a contra of the assets account, so we need to minus it. Okay, and then for the current year depreciation, you can find the information in the additional information. Okay, additional information number 2 stated that the depreciation for non-current asset for the year are as follows. Therefore, we need to provide these depreciation expenses towards this type of asset. We only have depreciation for building, plant and machinery and motor vehicle. There is no depreciation for land. Therefore, please record the item correctly in the respective asset. So, at the end, we have the accumulated depreciation for the year by add up the opening balance of accumulated depreciation and the current year depreciation. At the end, you can find out the carrying value of the asset as per cost minus the accumulated depreciation. So, you do the same process for each of the assets, and at the end, you sum up all of the carrying value of the tangible asset to derive to the carrying value of the property, plant and equipment as a whole. Therefore, at the end, after you have derived this amount, post this amount to the face of the statement of financial position. Remember, you need to summarize the item first in form of notes to the property, plant and equipment, and only then you transfer it to the face of the statement of financial position under a single item called property, plant and equipment. Okay, so the rest of the item you will record as usual. Therefore, for any changes due to the adjustment, you need to report it accurately. As an example here, rental prepaid is the result of the adjustment for additional information number 6, where the double entry we have also reported it in the statement of profit or loss, as shown here. Okay, next. After we have finished on the assets, on reporting the asset sides, next is to report on the equity and liability. So after the assets portion, we will now represent these two items. We will start by presenting the equity portion, and then and followed by the liability portion. So, for the liability portion, we have to separate the non-current liability with the current liability. After that, we will take the total of each, okay, and arrive to the total amount of liabilities and equity. So, this amount is then double ruled, just like what we did for the asset. Okay. Take note here, class. As for the equity section, we will only present the closing balance of the two main components of equity. Okay, they are the share capital and reserve. Instead of the individual item as presented in SOCI, we don't present individual item of ordinary share capital and retained profit. Instead, we have to summarize it. Okay. Since our question, in this question, we only have one type of share capital, so ordinary share automatically will present as share capital, while retained profit will automatically represent as under reserve. However, if you have more than one share capital, for example, you have also preference shares here, you need to add up both ordinary share capital and preference share capital first, and then only you transfer the amount and recorded it under share capital. Remember, you have to summarize the item, okay, and only then you will transfer it to the statement of financial position under these two heading only. Okay, so where to take this amount? This balance is taken from the statement of changes in equity. Because why do we need to summarize it? Because if you refer to SOCI, we already prepared it in detail for each of the component, starting from the opening balance until the computation of the closing balance. Therefore, when we prepare the statement of financial position, we just have to summarize the closing balance of the two main items and transfer it under this heading, share capital and reserve. So finally, we have to make sure that the total assets is equal to the total equity and liabilities, to show that most of our accounting records have been done properly and correctly. If they are not the same, then something must have gone wrong during the process, and we need to check starting from the first step. Okay, before we end up this section, please make sure you have post all the adjustment correctly. As for example here, adjustment on the accrued interest on debenture, adjustment on the final dividend, and adjustment on the tax payable. Okay, that's all for Eco Dynamic Berhad. I hope you can attempt the question accurately. Thank you.